Hi friends, would you like to join me today to do a fun experiment with watercolor and oil? Well then let's go. Hi, welcome. I'm Janessa, a teaching artist here at the Pérez Art Museum, Miami. And today we're going to be doing an art making experiment inspired by artwork by Tomás Esson. Here at the Pérez Art Museum, Miami, we have a special exhibition called Allied with Power. Tomás Esson has a beautiful painting in this exhibition that is part of a larger series called Miami Flow. These beautiful paintings are automatic paintings that are done with oil and acrylic on linen. And so today we want to make sure that we experiment with those materials in our own process. For today's art experiment, what we're going to need is some water and a cup to wash our brushes in. We're going to need our watercolors. I have straws here to help me move my paint around. You can also use water droppers. We have oil. You can use corn, vegetable oil, whatever you have in your kitchen. If you don't have watercolors, you can also use acrylic paint or other paints that are water-based paints that are easy to mix with water, such as poster paint or tempera. We have some palettes here to help us mix those colors. I have some cardstock paper to paint on today, but you can also use watercolor paper or canvas. And finally, underneath all of my materials here, I have this nice tray. So if things get messy, I can keep everything nice and contained. All right, so the first thing that we want to do in our experiment is we want to get our paints ready. So if you have watercolors, it's going to be a little easier. All you have to do for your watercolors is simply just add water. However, if you're working with something that comes out of a tube, perhaps something that looks like this, you're gonna wanna water these down. So in order to do that, you wanna go ahead and get your paints in a palette that looks something like this, or even a cup if you have jars at home. And I'm gonna use my straw, but if you have a dropper at home, that'll make it easier to move the water over. But to move it with a straw, I just put my thumb, let me bring this closer. I'm gonna put my thumb over the top of the straw, and I'm gonna go ahead and move my water over. And I'm definitely gonna need more water than that. And once I think I have enough water, I want to go ahead and put that down. And I want to go ahead and mix it real good till it becomes very liquefied. And I'm going to do this to all of my colors here on this palette to make sure that they're almost kind of the consistency of my watercolors. And what we're trying to do is make sure we get all of the grit and all of the paint pigment to be very liquefied and smooth. So we want to make sure we mix it very well. And if you need help from a mom and dad for this one, definitely ask for it. Oh, okay. Got it.
Keep going, don't stop. Keep going.
All right. Well, if we need help from a friend for this one, then we definitely go ahead and ask for it. All right, on to my last color. I'm gonna go ahead and mix that nice and good. Remember to move my water over. I'm using my thumb to cover the top of my straw, which then holds the water at the bottom of the straw, and then I mix. All right, perfect. So now I have my beautiful colors in my palette and my watercolors over here. So now we can start with my experiment. So we're gonna do this more than one way because it is an experiment. We wanna see how many different combinations we can get and see how our different combinations work and give us different outcomes. That's what an experiment and what scientists do. So my first thing that I wanna try is I think I wanna try just putting my watercolors down on the paper first. So just like I moved my water over to mix my colors for my paints in my palette, I'm gonna go ahead and put my finger over the top. I'm gonna bring my colors over. And I'm just gonna start putting some colors onto my paper. And I could also use my paintbrush in this as well if I wanna just kind of brush it on. gonna grab some of my green. If I want to try to make it a little faster, I might add some green to my water here and then see if I can pour some of it on there and move my colors around. So this is all about experimenting. I have my water, I have my oil, and I have my colors, and I'm trying to see what I can come up with. I'm gonna go ahead and move my tray around. And now I'm gonna come with one of my straws, and I'm gonna go ahead and move that oil in there. So I'm gonna take my thumb, cover the top of my straw or my dropper, and I'm just gonna add my oil on there. And I just kinda wanna see the reaction that it has. I'm gonna move my paper around and see what it does. And the really great thing about watercolors and oils together on a canvas or a paper is that they're working against each other, so they leave these really interesting designs. So this painting is coming out very moody, I like it. Go ahead and add some more oil. And this time with my oil over here, I want to brighten it up some. So I think I'm going to go ahead and take some of my brighter colors over here and add it on top and see what happens. And it's just very interesting to see how the colors move, how they interact, how they separate from one another. And then what I want to do is I want to let this one rest. So I'm going to go ahead and move to another page. And I want to keep experimenting. Make sure you have several pages handy so you can play around with your colors. This one I'm going to get a little impatient about. I'm going to take all my watercolors that are nice and wet in here, and I'm going to kind of just dump it on to my canvas, since I have all that water on there. And then what I want to do is I want to see how the oil reacts with it. So I'm going to throw it on top. This one I'm getting a little more messy, but that's okay. We want to get messy in our experiments. We want to be artists. You know, make sure we have some paper towels nearby. I'm gonna move my stuff out of the way, and I'm just gonna use the tray to kind of move my colors around. That's what the tray is for, to keep everything nice and contained. Very interesting. And this is what artists do. We experiment, we explore, and once we've got it to a place where we really like the composition or the colors, then we go ahead and we move it to the side. Let me get some of my paper towels out. Let me dry up my workspace so I can maybe do one more. Okay. So I have my final piece here. And this time I'm gonna go ahead and do my oil first. Remember, it's an experiment. Placing oil on my canvas. Cardstock, paper, whatever canvas that you've chosen. And this time now I'm going to dump my paint colors that I've chosen to see what happens. And you can pour, you can brush on with a paintbrush, you can use a straw or a dropper. You just want to figure out a cool way to get your colors on there and how it's going to interact with your oil. And I think this might be my favorite one because it's just so bright and like colorful. And I'm going to let that dry there. But now we've got 3 pieces, so let's set them out here. I'm going to move my pieces to the side. Move my oil and water over. And let's take a look at what we've done in our 3 experiments. Using oil and water. Now, once this dries, you can come back to these pictures and you can add some more markings with a paintbrush. Maybe you want to come in with some pastels or markers, and you can add some details to it. But obviously you have to wait a day or 2 for this to fully dry. But the main important thing is to have fun. This is an experiment.